between the two regions in general.
Yeah, I mean, just look at how SKT choked out that game, right? Oh, we got Alistar's ulti. That's enough. Back off. Oh, we got Meteos' ulti. That's enough. Back off. You know, they're willing to take these small things because they know they're going to be able to capitalize on the window where you're missing that summoner, you're missing that ultimate, and that's, I think, the strength of a lot of the top Korean teams. But to focus back here, I mean, Flash Wolves, they've looked good early in a lot of their games, but they have been atrocious in the late game. Like, I mean, it may sound cruel, but it's true,
yeah,
right?
I mean, yeah, it's absolutely true. Like that 60-minute game versus C9 being a great example of them not being able to get anything worth, like.
And of course, all of us were terrified for the first 45 minutes, the first 50 minutes even, and then 2 amazing kicks from Meteos to just essentially close that game out.
It's the C9 game. It's both IMA games. It's, you know, it's every loss that they've had, they've really struggled. They like get ahead. Even SKT game kind of looked a bit shaky for a while when they did end up winning that one. So that really has been their struggle, and we'll see if they're able to kind of clean that up at all here today.
And I like the Nidalee first pick. It's not really a Meteos special. You don't think of him as this crazy aggressive invading jungler, but he has been doing it a decent amount at Worlds, and more importantly, it doesn't let Karsa do it, so you have the winning jungle matchup, and I think that's your biggest the thing you're most scared of in the early game is Karsa's ability to take over, and so just having Meteos in the control seat is much better for C9.
Interesting, of course, as well, the Elise band away, making sure that Karsa can't have those high-impact early game champions. Lee Sin, of course, however, still on the table. Flash was already locking in their first rotation, though. They are picking up the Ryze as well as the Caitlyn. Curious to see what C9's options are going to be here. Now, Crumb said that he feels like blue side has proven to be stronger, that the first pick is more important. I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that. Blue side, red side, who do you think has the edge in the current meta?
To me, it has seemed like it's more about blue side, because in previous meta, it was, I think, more even, because it was like, there was more really big power picks that you like felt like you must have. So it's like, oh, okay, well, they got Nidalee, but we got like this and that, which is just as good or whatever, right? And now it feels like a lot of the picks past like, oh, the Syndra or the Nidalee or the whatever are more, it's like, oh, okay, well, they got that, but we can trade. It's not as big of a deal. So it feels like the red side doesn't have that kind of like big punch for their first draft, where a lot of teams were playing around that strategy and being like, well, we'll just leave multiple OPs up and we'll get 2, you get 1.
Right, I mean, you have Nidalee, you have potentially Syndra and Aurelion Sol, and then after that, there's actually almost nothing that you consider a high priority pick. There's plenty of strong things, like Alistar even this tournament, despite being pretty heavily high win rates, it's not something that is always picked every game. It's not super high pick ban rate. It's still
Mata,
good,
right?
but yeah,
like,
Mata passed it a bunch of times.
Yeah, like Mata had the most impressive Alistar performance, bar none, of the tournament. He like hard carried a game against TSM, a rip. But, you know, after that, he was just picking Karma, Nami, etc. when it was left open for him. So some people would disagree with that or whatever, but it's not super, super high priority. And I think that it mostly comes down to like, hey, what are these guys individually good at? And I think that's a lot of what the rest of the bans come through. So it's like, oh, okay, well, we're going to take Syndra off the table, but, well, Stinky's really good at Jhin, so let's ban that. And like, oh, Impact's really good at Kennen, so let's ban that, right? It's less about the strength of the champion and more about the player with these other bans.
Yep, and just looking at Flash Wolves comp so far, I actually like it a lot, which I don't want to admit, but I do like having a very beefy team comp. We've seen how much teams can struggle when they don't have any of that, and having the Poppy and the Lee Sin are both great for it. Ryze gets a little beefy as a mage, and Caitlyn's just one of the best champions in the late game to sit from the back line behind those tanks and just pew-pew away.
And I also think that putting MMD on something like Poppy means that Impact, like, even if you're winning this lane, there's like there's a limit to how much you can abuse
Poppy's
a Poppy.
Always useful.
Exactly, right? Like, even if the Poppy's down a level or 2, even if the Poppy's down 80 CS or whatever, you know, like in the late game, ooh, 300 CS to 220, that looks really bad. It doesn't matter. Poppy still has really high potential to be involved in these team fights. I do like Impact on the Gnar, though. It's something he hasn't really seen the entire Worlds tournament. Everyone has been banning against him. And the fact that Flash Wolves are leaving their support pick to last tells me that they have some sort of flex that they're looking at, whether it's something like really aggressive that they want to see the whole lineup fleshed out before they're willing to pick that, or something more defensive but it's basically they're flexible with their support pick.
Right, and I like the Gnar over something like a Rumble or a Jace that he might have gone. I think putting Impact not only on something that can control the lane early, but also impact team fights and kind of dictate how those go is extremely important, because he is probably their team's best engager. So having him both in lane, having control of that lane, as well as controlling when their team actually fights is huge. Especially when you have Meteos off a tank, right? Yeah. If you put him on a squishy, then your team all of a sudden is very, very kind of fragile. And Tahm Kench going to be picked up. Tahm Kench has been really strong, but honestly,
there's a lot of picks I would have liked more, I think, from Flash Wolves against something like this, because I think that Braum's biggest weakness is actually his lane. I think that Braum's lane has really been abusable throughout this tournament, and I felt like there's a lot of picks that they could have gone with to try to kind of exploit that and try to get a big advantage, especially when compared with the Caitlyn.
Yeah, and I think when you look at C9's comp, there's nothing that you're like, oh man, this Tahm Kench is going to save you from a Syndra or this thing.
Or whatever, you know?
So if we're not talking about the save, if we're not talking about that Devour being used defensively, is it going to be the ultimate that comes into bigger play here for Flash Wolves?
Yeah, it certainly can be, right? That's one of their strengths of the team is going to be that they have the Abyssal Voyage, they have the Ryze ultimate, so you have these kind of like fairy type abilities where you can flank even from multiple angles and do these kind of creative map movements or like engages and stuff. So that's something that they can look for. It can be tough to pull off, and we'll see if they're going to be able to do it. But even for Tahm Kench, you can just use it for map movement, right? Like you can out rotate someone, you know, ult your carry to the bot lane and start hitting the turret or whatever. So there are cool ways you can do that. And I think one thing that Tahm Kench does excel at is allowing your team to check Baron, right? If you're kind of worried about that, you have your big tanky guy go first, you eat him out if he gets CC. That's one thing that's pretty nice about it that I think can be a kind of a cool advantage, since a lot of the games have him mattered.
Of course, relative safety around Baron attempts will be pretty crucial, especially given how the last game went for Cloud9 and their attempts to check the Baron, consistently giving up those small advantages, as you mentioned earlier. But for all of you at home, check in with us on Twitter, tweet at LoL Esports with the hashtag #AskTheCasters to get your questions in. This is, of course, the Fog of War stream from C9's perspective, so we're going to see exactly how their plan unfolds. Now, gentlemen, keeping the Fog of War in mind, I feel like we always have to talk about the junglers in the early game. Lee Sin versus Nidalee, and more specifically Karsa on this Lee Sin. Where can we expect him to have early impact?
I mean, it's one of those things where he has a lot of different options, right? Like, I think he can go a lot of different places. Personally, if I was him, I'm already looking at Jensen. Jensen's not playing Cleanse, and I think that the empowered W from Ryze, the fact that it lasts like 2 seconds or something at rank 1 or 2.5 even, it's something disgusting. That can set you up for very easy ganks, and Jensen has been punished in the past for not playing with Cleanse. But C9 going to be going for these invades, and it's a lot scarier when you don't know if they're there or not.
Yeah, this is my favorite part about the Fog of War stream is level 1 suddenly becomes a lot more interesting. Yeah. You don't know what's going on. You don't know how many people are in that bush. It could have easily been a 5v5, and that's the kind of thing you have to worry about when you're actually playing the game. Suppose when you're sitting back and you get to see one team's in a fan and one team's in that group.
Of course, we did see MMD ward and move out of the bush. We did catch a glimpse of that. So do we think that Flash Wolves have now moved down to the bottom side to get vision at our own? And if so, where do you think is the optimal warding locations for Flash Wolves?
You probably just want to stick it on something like the golems to know if the bot lane's starting there, if they're going for some kind of controlling the bot wave right away. You know that also maybe red buff if they're trying to do a really cheesy start, but level 1 warding has become a lot more simplified with the fact that you know what lane everyone's going to be in. So the most thing you're looking for is if they're doing a camp or not on the bot side and actually where the jungler's starting.
Exactly, and they're trying to track where junglers are starting, and C9 has been successful in doing this because they actually are just going to start at golems. Flash Wolves did a little thing, obviously it's small, but they're not careless about just kind of standing out on the ward early, so they're not giving them that advanced knowledge. They know it's going to be warded out, but they wait until the very last second when the camp spawns to kind of step out there. So it's a small thing, but it does kind of limit the information that your opponents have. And watching League of Legends with this Fog of War on is really going to show you how much it is about denying information, how much it is, gleaning information from the small things, anticipating your opponent's jungle path. Is Lee Sin going to do, Golem's red-blue gank? Is he going to do one of those 3 camp ganks? Is he going to go topside early? These are all things that they have to be keeping in mind and trying to play around, and a lot of that comes down to ward timings.
Right, and that's one of the things that Nidalee's actually able to help a lot with, being the fastest clearing jungler on this patch, basically. You have options in terms of where you put the Nidalee to go, and if she goes Scuttle Crab early and then goes back into her jungle to get the red buff or something, sometimes you see them just go out and put a ward down somewhere before doing anything else just to secure a safer game against some of these level 3 ganking junglers like Lee Sin.
Interesting, of course, we did see the single small Krug go down on the bottom side, but despite the potential experience advantage there's no real advantage in the bottom side. Meteos, as you mentioned, clearing out the jungle at top speed here. And we have to keep our eyes where Karsa is going to go in the early game. At this point, it looks like Maple already taking advantage of that early Ryze wave clear to push in, but he as well has become a mystery. Potentially a blue buff being donated. You see some red pings going down on the map.
Yeah, my guess is that they are going to do that early blue donate. You also do see some people just kind of like push super fast and then go back for a tier, which actually looks like he's done. And I'm not sure how we see that even with Fug War. I guess it's because the Spectre client still has the information. So that is what he actually went for. So you start with the Ruby Crystal, or not Ruby Crystal, sorry, the Mana Crystal, and you can just base on a very early gold threshold if you can push them out, and you can get that tier stacking right away. So it's a pretty standard thing for Ryze, and it's very smart, and he will now go over to that blue.
It's the kind of thing you see out a lot of the mid lane mages right now that have that ability to get push priority at level 1. Aurelion Sol is the same way, where you
Double
see these,
Dorans.
yep, something like that. It's the kind of thing you see all the time, and it's one of the reasons those champions are so strong, as well as the way the wave actually just interacts. By pushing really hard in the first 3 waves, you're pretty much guaranteed to get into turret, which bounces it back in your direction to farm safely from then on.
And it also kind of puts your opponent in this position where they almost have to respond, even if they don't want to, right? Viktor would love to have this long stalled out lane phase where he backs with his first Hex Core upgrade, but guess what? He can't. So he has to kind of respond, push it out, spend his mana. And Meteos is looking top for a gank here. We'll see if they can get flash or anything.
Spear is going to connect. That's nice. Flash to the wall. Not going to get the denial.
That was such a bad juke by MMD. He ran right back into the spear.
Well, he just had to wait. The Impact had already used his stun. All you have to do, wait till the spear is thrown, then flash it. He flashes before, then he steps into this. Like he actually, well, my mistake. He gets hit by the spear, then flashes afterwards.
Right.
So this is just awful from MMD.
Like, he could have just kept running forward, taken the slow from the queue. Yeah, or flash it.
Like either or. I mean, if you don't trust yourself to dodge that, and that's fair. It's a high pressure situation, right? You don't want to give up first blood. Just flash. That's all you have to do there. MMD unable to do so, though, gives first blood over to Meteos and gives that CS advantage over to Impact as well as TP advantage, and that's exactly what C9 would be looking for.
That's exactly the lane I think that C9 would be hoping to impact as well. Viktor versus Ryze.
I see what you did there.
The mid lane and the bot lane matchups aren't going to snowball.
That was bad.
Yeah, that was a horrible trade. But they're not going to snowball as hard as a top lane matchup will, or the jungle matchup. So the fact that that play happened on the top side of the map is extremely good for C9.
Yeah, and Impact holds his TP because he had it pushed in before he bases. So if you look at top side, he maybe misses like, okay, so he missed 1 melee creep for saving his TP. Not bad. And bot side, that trade was honestly weird. There was 3 Caitlyn traps, and they're like, okay, we'll both step on one at the same time, and then he can't shoot us both. So it turns out he can't shoot you both. But yeah, I mean, that was a little bit of a goof. But either way, you can see MMD. He's on an adventure, and it's one of those situations where when lane starts to get bad, sometimes you're going to roam around, wait for the wave to push back to you. So you may as well make that trip to mid lane and see, hey, is Viktor in a bad spot? Can I make something happen? Nothing really did happen for them there, but he clears a ward, and he'll be back top with plenty of time to catch the wave. So right now he's just kind of wandering around, and that's something they have to be aware of.
Now I'm curious, with Impact level 6, with Meteos still on the top side, is there any potential if they build a large enough wave to dive a Poppy, or is it simply too risky?
No, they should probably actually look for that dive play. They both have their flashes. Oh, well, Meteos doesn't have his flash, but Impact has his flash to set the dive up with some CC.
Oh, this is not good. The early lane phase you talked about for Braum, potentially weak, even to the Tahm Kench. Tunglic's coming in, NL still alive and well. SwordArt, good patience. Already used the Devour, not going to have anything else.
Yeah, and the big problem there is once again, Smoothie just straight up steps on a trap. It's in the mini wave, and I honestly don't really understand what they're doing here. I know they don't want to like let too many traps build up, but they are really causing themselves some problems, and that cost them 3 summoners for no summoners from Flash Wolves. And if it was an even summoner trade, then the HP would actually be like pretty fine, right? Seeky got some good damage back on NL and whatnot, but because they had to blow 3 summoners, that was just straight awful, and I'm really surprised at how many pretty bad mistakes C9 is making in the bot lane.
Yeah, the one saving grace is the fact that they have TP advantage, so Flash Wolves bot lane can't actually go as aggressive as they probably would want to, given this, because even though there's no ward behind them, any play that they go for, like a dive or something, is just not going to work. It's going to get countered by the TP, and you can force the TP out and disengage, which would be a good thing to look for Flash Wolves, but it's just nice that they can't push it as hard as they might want to.
Yeah, and that is the advantage of having the winning top side, right? And it's always a give or take. So making mistakes on the bot side, but MMD kind of made those mistakes on the top side, and he's posing aggressively here, and we know that Lee Sin isn't there because we have those kind of deeper wards, but you can see Impact was respecting the chance that, hey, maybe it's a lane gank from Lee Sin or something. And if Poppy is able to ult you up and then get behind you and E you into the Lee Sin or whatever, so it's just showing that respect. He doesn't know where the jungler is, so Poppy goes aggressive. Well, there's no reason he needs to stay there, so he'll just back off, right?
Right, and the other thing too is the jungle timings make it such that it's pretty likely that the Lee Sin is on the top side clearing away his jungle again.
Well, and additionally as well, now they can't be 100% sure that that vision is there. I mean, acting, of course, not something that we always like to point to, but they're not going to assume that Impact has that perfectly warded up. Maybe able to play around that information a little better. I want to hit a Twitter question here as we do see the lane phase start to extend. We get this one a decent amount, but I thought we'd hit it in this cast. Good Guts asks, what is the reason no team at Worlds is going for the Gragas pick anymore, especially against these hard engage comps?
It was honestly just the nerfs to Gragas. I think people just felt were too much. The champion feels really bad to play now. It's a lot harder to kind of pull off the alt flash type combo, like where you E flash barrel at the same time, and then you ult them in and stuff. You basically just it's hard to pull off these combos now. You can't really do it. So the pick just kind of lowered itself in priority because it was more about that explosive engage, and because his engage and stuff kind of got worse. These other junglers are just more consistent.
Right, and against hard engage in particular, if the ult is what you're looking for to help you peel, and that's the thing that gets changed to feel less fluid to use, it's not going to help you keep people off your carries as easily because you can miss it. And Gragas is one of those ultimates that when you miss it, it can be a disaster because you just put someone on top of your back line. Yeah,
you can. It's really scary because not only is it just oh, I wasted it, it's actually you actively hurt your team.
Right, exactly.
You actively messed it up, or you can save people, right? Same kind of thing. So. We are seeing Tahm Kench kind of moving up towards that mid lane and looking to clear some wards. And Meteos, that's really pretty aggressive. He doesn't know where Lee Sin is, and I think he just killed himself. Yeah,
Ryze on the way. That's not what you want. Such a good first blood into an immediate poor decision here.
That was just awful for Meteos. I mean, immediately when I saw him go on the spear, like I said, he doesn't know where Lee Sin is. Guess where Lee Sin is? Right there. He's protecting his support that is doing that. It's an easy flash in, eats him up from SwordArt, and Meteos throws it right back, and now probably going to be able to get it this early Water Dragon, which is the best one you can get early game. This one is incredibly strong. So Meteos really just gave a big advantage over the Flash Wolves.
Yeah, that was just a huge mistake.
Yeah, very questionable, but of course the alt Q not going to be enough to steal. But this segues us perfectly into our next Twitter question from Brainless Monkey. What is the safest way to get offensive vision without getting punished or caught if lanes are even and or behind?
Safest way is you have to know where your opponent is, right? Jungler shows topside. Well, hey, if we invade with more people than they can have there, you can kind of go as a team. It's tag team. You know where they can't be, right? So you have to know where they are, and then that can unlock you to kind of go in and get that vision.
So solo walking up the river was a bad choice.
Yeah, so yeah, queuing in on a Tahm Kench without knowing where anyone is was a bad
disengage.
choice.
Meteos getting aggressive once again.
They do get the flash out of there, but Jensen cost him his own.
Yep, and just to touch a little bit more on the warding point, like Azael was saying, often you want to see where they are, and then you can react using your kind of more mid-depth wards when they start looking for a play. The other thing, of course, is that usually minion waves move back and forth a little bit, so you can try and meet up with a laner to help you get that deep vision. Sometimes you can go in through topside together, with whatever your mid laner is doing, or especially meet up with a support because usually the support has the most vision available to them.
And having the push also very important, right? It's a key part of it because if you have them shoved to their turret, if they come to answer your roam and your kind of quest for vision, then they're going to lose minions to turret. They're going to lose gold. They're going to lose experience. So that is why, at least in this meta right now, the push is so important in mid lane, right? It unlocks you to roam around, to help your jungler, to help your other lanes, to do these different things. So it's definitely been big and very even game so far, but you have to feel like C9 kind of threw back that lead.
To be fair, it was a small lead overall, just the first blood gold. No one with that first brick bonus quite yet. Well, it's going to be interesting to see what the first fight is going to be. I think the Ocean Drake, as you mentioned, a much bigger factor at this stage. However, a lot of tools here for C9 if they want to fight, and it looks like Sneaky does. 2 stacks down 4. Concussive Blow is going to proc, but TPs are on the way. Braum ult to disengage. Smoothie's in trouble, but here comes the Poppy MMD. He's got the hammer ready. Doesn't look like he wants to drop it, and a messy engage there. Cloud9 backing out.
Yeah, and I think Cloud9 backed off because they don't know where Ryze is, I guess. I'm not sure if they actually saw him, but they cancel the TPs, they back out, and they're going to probably give up first turret here for free.
Yeah, the way Impact was TPing in, he wasn't quite Mega Gnar yet. He was 25 to 50% of the way charged, and he was going to be in a forward position. I think they just thought that if he finished that TP, he could just be turned on and killed. So he cancels and has to sacrifice the bottom turret because of it.
Now, it looks like at the end of the day, it will be the 1-for-1 tower trade, but first brick is going to go over to Flashful. A pretty massive gold bonus for them. Should still be relatively close, but a pretty big misstep from C9 once again.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a good try. It didn't seem like they wanted to fully commit to the fight, though. You know, Meteos did actually hit the spear, but he decided to not go in on it, and maybe they could have bursted that guy out and then completed TP and looked for the fight, but I think it's very risky, and they didn't want to chance it, so right now they're basically just saying, okay, yeah, we'll give over that gold, but it was split between a number of people, and they're kind of trying to play around Impact, right? Impact has this relatively big CS lead up top, and now he gets all the local gold from that turret. He's already on a Black Cleaver. Almost guarantee this guy now goes for the split push type build, right? Gets the frozen mallet and just keeps trying to get advantages in the side lane.
And the 4-1 split push is definitely a late game option for Cloud9. Having the Viktor wave clear, Ezreal being able to poke, Nidalee the same way, and they have another frontliner in Smoothie available. They can have a pretty good 4-man core, as well as having Impact getting priority in the side lane, which opens up so much for you. So I don't think it's a disaster to have that play happen.
No.
The fact that they were able to trade the turrets evenly is a big deal, though I don't think they're going to be able to keep up. Unless, actually, Ezreal's close enough. This will be fine.
As Smoothie looks to defend the tower here, I've got a question for you. So looking at that 4-1, if we get to that point in the late game, how does that stack up with the semi-global mobility that Flashful brings to the table? The Tahm, Kench, the Ryze all coming in.
Well, a lot of it, once again, is it just comes down to vision, as most of League does, right? You have to know where these guys are, and if you don't know where they are, you have to respect the chance that they could be ulting in on you. So, you know, pushing out the waves, playing as aggressive as you can when you know where their teammates are, and when you don't, playing it far back, sitting, being patient, not trying to over push. And I think that, honestly, as far as that 4-1 goes, Impact should be able to very heavily bully Poppy later in the game. And it'll probably end up having to be Maple or someone that answers him if it gets extreme, right? But he doesn't have TP.
The only concern would be if Cloud9's 4-man core becomes weak enough that they can never push. Because they have the global teleport ultimate available in Ryze, it becomes harder for Impact to extend in the long side lane, where Flash Wolves can just push up mid and then start rotating people behind him extremely quickly. And similarly, Cloud9 has to be careful if their 4-man core pushes up, because any kind of flank from MMD or Maple or Karsa can be a disaster because they have so many engage tools available.
Yeah, and here is that flank. You saw Lee Sin briefly, so Lee Sin is coming in, and
we're looking for it. Impact not going to get
kick.
the chance. Double throw back. He's going to have to flash to safety. Karsa maybe waiting for another strike. Sonic Wave lands, looking for a little bit more. One auto. Impact so low and does get cut down.
And this is it. This is the lack of vision, right? It could have been Tahm Kench ulting someone in, but it was Lee Sin getting behind him, and they had no vision, even in their side of the jungle. So Impact does end up dying and blowing that flash. So, I mean, he knew something was up when MMD as soon as he went aggressive, but the fact that they had no wards protecting him on this outside map, so you can see this is now with everything revealed, but look at the lack of vision around their red side of the jungle, right? There's nothing there, so it's an easy wraparound for Karsa, and it was such a good kick by him to kick very early before Impact could get that ultimate, because I think if Impact gets the stun in, he probably doesn't.
The one advantage there was that Maple looked like he was coming in from behind as well, so there's a pretty good chance they could keep that kill going, and that's kind of what we were talking about. Is it's really hard to play the Gnar in a side lane when you don't have pressure anywhere else in the map and you're in this extended long lane, and vision as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly as you pointed out. If you want to play against this composition, you need vision, and it's even more crucial because of those semi-global ultimates, and it was all too easy for Maple to roam down. Didn't end up being involved in the end. Does burn Ghost, so kind of the silver lining on the Cloud stacking up against Cloud9, but Mountain Drake started up. It looks like Cloud9 are trying to make a bigger effort to get vision control on the bottom side, and no vision, unfortunately, outside of that on MMD, so they have to be careful here.
Yeah, they certainly do, and having pushing lanes as well is something that's pretty big to be able to unlock you to go for the split push and stuff, because it means people have to respond to the minions. It shows them. Right now, though, there's no one on top side answering Poppy at all, so they need to start something up, or they need to have someone up there answering him, and they're just going to go straight for the dragon. We'll see if Poppy wants TP in here. I think they're going to try to fight this.
Yeah, they don't have enough pink wards down to really have good vision control here. You see the TP coming in.
On the way forward, Dragon does drop in the favor of Cloud9. Ryze on the backside does use the double snare to try to get a little bit more.
C9 just back out.
They are just going to back away. Good decision-making coming in. Impact, though, looks like he may want to fight.
And honestly, their MMD, he TP'd way too late, right? And the thing is, if you TP that late or you don't have that much vision, then you shouldn't TP at all, because they had already seeded the dragon by the time he started TPing, and then it's like, oh crap, we got to get something. and C9 intelligently disengages. So now they have TP advantage and they got the dragon. So it's the worst of both worlds for Flash Wolves.
Right, no turret gotten for Flash Wolves. So this is actually not a good spot for them to be in for the next 4 or 5 minutes of the game, where they're going to put Impact on the top side probably to try and pressure in while the bot lane is able to push in as well. Or they might do some weird 1-3-1, but I don't think they should stick with this lane assignment, and they should just try and set up a TP flank on the bot side.
Well, and it's interesting too because we now finally have solid vision on the bottom side of the map, protect Impact, but now he's on the top side. What do they need to set up more vision around here to protect Impact split pushing, or is he strong enough now that he can just push himself?
I think he's strong, but it's also that they see multiple people, right? So they saw 3 members on the map, so you have to think who all could really be here. And at this point, he's going to have to respect the fact that Ryze and Lee Sin can be there, and now he's seen Ryze, so he will just kind of sit back and play it more defensively. So the fact that he had seen those people allowed him to kind of go in, get the ward, backs off, and he will respect the fact that Flash Wolves could be ganking him with Karsa and Maple.
And of course, we're going to look on the top side here to just see Maple clear out this wave to pressure back, but keep in mind on the bottom side of the map, we had multiple members of Flash Wolves disappear as that wave crashes into the tower. Now, is it just automatic to assume that they are now in your bottom side jungle, or do you assume that they have backed out? What are you generally looking for once a team kind of misses after pushing in a wave like that?
I think because it's this specific situation, you can read that they want to go for mid lane turret. They're trying to push in the turret because they've already got bot side turret. They have Caitlyn. They're looking to siege turrets and try to extend their advantage through doing that. Set up the trap line, have this beefy front line, and allow Caitlyn the safety to do it. And you could see them rotating up to top side because Meteos had grabbed the scuttle.
Right, I think a big thing they want to do is they want to go run a 1-3-1 and then rotate to pressure the global lane. Usually whenever there's a global, what you want to do is attack the global. And so in this sense, it's Impact with his TP up. And by having your dual lane mid, you're going to get push priority on the Viktor, and then you can just keep making it unsafe for the Gnar to push out, which is what you're going to keep seeing here. They're going to push this in, and then they're going to kind of hang out in the mid lane or rotate to the top side to keep trying to pressure the Gnar and kind of invalidate that potential global threat he has.
You can see pings being traded back and forth. Clearly, Baron Vision a little bit contested here on both sides, although Cloud9 do seem to have the setup at this stage of the game. I want to hit a Twitter question real quick. Imperial Scout asks, are you better off going with the Tracker's Knife or a modified Smite for the jungler? And let's talk about when it's appropriate to get either one.
So for me, I think it's very dependent on the situation. I think competitive, you almost always need a sight stone or trackers. That's pretty much how it feels because vision is so important because people play around it. These teams respond so well to any time someone is spotted out. They'll take advantages. I think in solo queue and champion dependent, but in solo queue personally, I take challenging 100% of the time because I just want to fight people, and that it gives you such a good dueling potential. I think you have to respect the fact that you don't have as much vision with that, but I do think it's okay to go for the aggressive ones, especially, chilling is very popular with certain champions as well, like Olaf and Skarner and these sorts of champions too.
Yeah, I would say it's just different depending on more so than the champions than the game mode you're playing. Competitive, most of the time you're going to want that Tracker's Knife. You can see chilling or challenging pretty it depends on the champion you're playing in solo queue, because some things like a Skarner really don't need the challenging smite. They're more about that pick-off potential.
Yeah. So chances are if you're fighting a Skarner in melee range, you're already pretty set to lose, I feel like.
Yeah, he's a bit scrappy, especially when he gets those little crystal shrine areas up.
It actually does quite a bit of damage if you are kind of going for those the Warrior Triforce and all that kind of solo queue type builds. And we have seen a little bit in Worlds. We saw Ambition, I think, have a really good game on it, I want to say. Yeah,
he had one, especially in his regional qualifiers. Yeah, had a pretty monster game where he popped off with the Warrior Triforce build. I want to commend Flash Wolves for how they played the macro game out down the TP. They actually just controlled Cloud9 completely, despite the fact that Cloud9 had that summoner advantage and are almost getting a turret with it. And they just totally invalidated what Gnar was able to do by having that 1-3-1 going. It was just a really, really good performance by Flash Wolves to not lose anything and actually get damage down on this turret. Now they're finally going to take it.
Yeah.
Putting themselves ahead, about a 1K gold lead at this stage of the game. Up a tower, trading Mountain for Ocean, so maybe small advantage to C9, but overall Flash Wolves seem to be pretty in control despite the massive lead that Impact has built for himself.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really not that massive anymore. 13 CS, right? He has the local gold, but he's up 100 and something gold. It's not a big deal at all at this point because they've kind of ran them around the map and allowed Poppy to find farm. And, what do you think was the problem, Mark, as far as not allowing themselves to use that TP? What would they have had to do better to put themselves in a position to exploit that advantage?
I'm not exactly sure. I'd have to rewatch everything that happened, but after they got the Cloud Drake, or the Mountain Drake, they took a little bit of time to reset, and off that, they had a minion wave pushing the top side because it counter pushed off the turret, and the fact that they couldn't get anyone up there to start pushing that wave again with vision, it gave Ryze time to start pushing it, and then the Caitlyn just controlled the mid wave because for some reason Viktor was on the bot side catching a wave. So I think they were just really slow getting out of the dragon, and then once flash wolves grabbed priority in almost every lane, it was hard to get it back. And I think they didn't really want to match the Ezreal in the mid lane, and with that they didn't have any priority because the Caitlyn just outpushed the Viktor, and then the Tahm, Kench, and the Lee Sin go run into your top side. And Gnar, I'm not sure how Gnar's 1v1 is versus Ryze, but it doesn't sound very good. So I assume that just having the Ryze matched up against the Gnar was favorable for Flash Wolves as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be very good without any MR.
Yeah.
You can see them now contesting the Drake. We'll see if it's going to steal. Not going to happen. Karsa, easy smite to take that one away. And Cloud9's, kind of hemorrhaging these small objectives, but do seem set up to take the push in the mid. But Flash Wolves are now on the bottom side, poised to take this tier 2.
It looks like Ryze is actually ulting back to mid lane, so that's pretty smart. And Poppy's is going to disengage the wave.
Oh,
and
takes out the Ezreal.
That is so well done. So they're not going to lose mid. They're getting tier 2 bot. And these guys can honestly even just keep pushing. And it feels like C9 is just getting kind of ran around the map. They're not really in the right spots. And as a result, they're even falling down in their farm advantages, right? They're 13 CS down in mid lane. Look at bot lane. Sneaky's 44 CS behind.
45 CS, yeah.
Without fighting, right? Like nothing has happened. He's now 40 CS.
A terrifying spot to be, and now it looks like we may see the dive. Karsa with the kick knocks him back into the wall. That's the chain combo from the Flash Wolves. TP comes in, and in the end is canceled as Cloud9 are set to give this one up. Maple fearless on the front side, just trying to pressure Meteos out, and Flash Wolves, moments ago it felt like such a small lead, but now they are completely in control of this game.
Just running them all over the map. Cloud9 felt like they had to respond to bot lane, so Jensen ends up alone in the mid lane. They go up from the bot lane into the mid lane, swing behind him to pin him against the wall and pick up a free kill in outer turret.
Looks like Impact is trying to threaten the flank here. I don't know that they really have enough health and stuff to actually do this. I think he wants to go in. We'll see.
Mega Gnar on the way, but SwordArt's just going to be able to eat him up. Takes him up as the Mega Gnar comes
and
out.
Just killed
blocks
Meteos.
the wall up. More. Side kill. Tiki looking for a little bit more. Is he going to be able to get the stun down? Ryze, the triple kill on the back lines. Flash Wolves.
I think this game just ended.
Yeah, they just got aced. They're going to probably just run to Baron.
They just got 5-for-0 ace. They're going to get Baron for free. This game just went to a complete disaster for C9. I'm not sure how they managed to get straight up 1v3'd by Maple on the side.
They just did what Ryze's love is they went in one at a time. So I don't think Meteos saw the fact that Maple was off on the side there, and so he just face checks him, gets killed, and then he kind of aggresses onto Smoothie, and Smoothie's able to kind of get something done, but then he dies, and then it's next onto the Ezreal.
We'll take a look at this one more time. You got to keep your eyes on Maple, though. The mysterious triple kill, where does it come from? But Meteos gets popped.
That was
Smoothie
terrible.
just gets popped.
Yeah, I mean, Meteos just walked up in range of him to get attacked. And
right, I thought he was going to have to face check him or something. I don't know how you just walk into Ryze W range like that.
Yeah, and C9 just seems like they're completely falling apart. They played a much better game against SKT, much more measured, much more patient. And this time, they are at a devastating disadvantage. 7,000 gold almost down, 26 minutes in. The Ryze is now an absolute monster. 3 fully completed items already. And he has a large rod on top of that. And honestly, Impact has got nothing in the side lanes. He's 0-2-1. Yes, he was winning lane. Yes, they killed off of Poppy early. But Poppy, you would actually expect her to be so much further down in farm at this point in the game. And because they've never got vision, because they've never had control, Impact has never been able to actually get anything as far as the side lanes.
And it felt like such a strong start with Meteos getting first blood, but it has just been downhill from there. Now, as we see Cloud9 at the disadvantage, a clear and, unfortunately for North America, massive disadvantage. What do they need to do with their vision? What do they need to do in the coming minutes to stop the bleeding here and to try to turn this game around?
I actually think they're in a lot of trouble because they don't have great pickoff. I guess if MMD wants to walk into them, that's an option as well. He's probably going to donate a kill over here back to Cloud9. But the rest of Flash Wolves on the map trying to take other turrets. Looks like they're going to grab the top tier 2.
Yeah, so even though they do get that kill, it's honestly still fine. Flash Wolves are going to get a turret. That's a trade you'll take every single time. But yeah, I think that C9 needs to maintain control of their own jungle because when you lose vision control in your own jungle, your jungler gets completely starved to farm. You just start falling further and further behind as far as the gold goes, right? You need to have access to continue farming, and if you can kind of stop the bleeding as far as that goes and at least farm your side of the map, then you do have a chance to kind of get back into it. But you have to feel like Flash Wolves kind of have a better late game comp, I think.
Right, you're basically hoping as Cloud9 that Flash Wolves makes a mistake here because the gold deficit is too big to let any of your own win conditions work. Like Gnar split pushing is not a thing anymore. You're not doing some 1-4 anything. So
yeah,
what
Poppy's ahead.
Yeah, Poppy's ahead. So what you're looking to do now, as somehow Ezreal gets obliterated on the map.
We'll have to get a replay of that one because there's just too much going on. Not even enough time for observers to catch him coming out of the fog.
Yeah, saw that observers mashing buttons, figure out where he is.
Instantly dead. Now, looking at this too, as they start to get resource starved, I see 4 characters on the side of Cloud9 that want gold.
This is just sneaky, not respecting the fact that they don't have vision around here, and he just walks in, instantly dead. I mean, that is that Ryze face check, right? And it's just Cloud9 are playing with disrespect from their first death, from the first time that Meteos died, right? They're not respecting where their opponents could be. And I think that it's really costing them, and they're losing more and more turrets, more and more gold, and now down over 8,000 gold here, and Flash Wolves are still pressing.
And it's terrifying because this Ryze already able to solo kill anyone and everyone. In addition to that, you have the Caitlyn to set up these sieges. I mean, it just feels like they're running out of options and running out of time. Flash Wolves, SwordArt just going to pour it out there. Maple, not scared. He'll take the 4v1 if he gets the opportunity.
Right. Cloud9, the one upside for them right now is the fact that they haven't had their base get cracked yet. If they can hold on to these inhib turrets and just kind of hang out until the next Baron, hopefully keep farming up without any more deaths, there's a chance you can hope that Flash Wolves messes up around the Baron and you can pick up some kills and maybe get that one for yourself. But there are a lot of engaged tools available for Flash Wolves, so if they want to really push one of these turrets, they do have plenty of options available to do so.
Yeah, I do think it's tough though. Like now that they've ceded control fully of their jungle, they're going to be giving up the Infernal Dragon for free. So that's going to mean triple dragons for Flash Wolves to the one from C9, and Infernal is a big one. That's definitely not something you want to be giving over, and they're just not able to actually push out and look for this farm. And Sneaky, here he is, far up once again, and Sneaky's dead.
Oh, Karsa goes in, has to flash.
No, they'll take that. I mean, any kind of summoner like that is just free money.
Given over completely for free as well, and you can see how desperate are Cloud9 just to control their side of the map. They have so little vision. Now Flash Wolves look to be pushing in for more, trying to break the base.
That's one of the things I love most about Poppy is the ability to shove people off a turret and open your team up to take it. Caitlyn being one of the best seizures. And with Cloud9 losing that inhib turret, if Flash Wolves is able to take that inhib prior to the Baron coming up, it's going to be next to impossible for Cloud9 to easily contest the Baron.
Yeah, almost 9,000 gold behind at this point, and it's definitely really tough. I just feel like they're not getting vision, not playing around vision well, and that's very obvious because we're watching from the Fog of War stream, right? And that is going to be another dragon going over to Flash Wolves, which is a pretty big one.
Right. The amount of times you've seen someone on Cloud9 walk forward somewhere they shouldn't have been to get punished by multiple members of Flash Wolves is way too high to really realistically win many competitive games like this.
It's truly unfortunate. Meteos, sneaky again, Impact. It feels like each and every member has overstepped at some point in the division, and while there have been solid moments coming in for Cloud9, some the solid early gank from Meteos and some interesting early map movement, and it just feels like Flash Wolves have been in control since the 10-minute mark. And while I was eager to give Cloud9 credit, try to figure out what they're doing, we talked about it earlier, Flash Wolves have just outmaneuvered Cloud9 through every stage of the game.
And I mean, it makes me nervous. Once again, so Sneaky's not going to be punished because they're going top, but Sneaky, look, he's far out of the base, right? He doesn't really know where people are. Ryze could be down there. Like, Ryze could have been down there. Now they see him top, so he is safe, and he can continue to push, and he will do so. But the fact is, he was there before he knew where his opponents were, right? And that's, once again, not showing that respect to your opponents, and it means that you can get heavily punished.
Right. I think Flash Wolves deserves a lot of credit for how they played out that mid game when they did have the TP disadvantage, and the fact that they had the losing side lane matchup, they just dodged it completely and kept pressure up in the mid lane so that Cloud9 couldn't get anything done. That was, you could say, one of the biggest parts of this game, not just some of the early face checks, because they went back and forth and the goal was relatively even. They're trading well. Both teams had their advantages, but then after that, Flash Wolves just really showed advanced understanding of how to get out of disadvantaged situations.
While we have seen Flash Wolves have some success in the mid game, especially in this game, they've really struggled to close out in their last few matches. Now, is that like the last boon of hope for Cloud9 at this stage? Is Flash Wolves' struggles in the late game? Is maybe another sloppy Baron attempt? It is just 20 seconds away.
Yeah, you certainly have to hope for that, right? You have to hope for the fact that Flash Wolves are not able to close it out, that you're able to delay, and start to make it so that gold doesn't really matter. But I think that's a long ways off, and the fact that Flash Wolves has kind of wrestled away full control of the Baron vision, from them is scary for Cloud9, and they're trying to get in there and get vision early, but ooh, if they could catch Maple. So that's good.
Getting his flash is good, though. Yeah,
yeah,
trading exhaust for flash is really good. And one thing I'll say that's different between this game and the other one is Cloud9 has a lot less playmaking potential. People like Lee Sin's late game is not good, but he always has. He always has that. He always has that threat to show up behind you and just insta-give one of your carries with the help of his team. And
they're gonna go straight for Baron now, and this is very, very, very hard for Cloud9 to contest. I actually think that they just have no business even trying at this point, and they're gonna have to
down.
give it up.
Taken out, just enough vision from that Nidalee trap to see their demise coming, but Impact trying to get something back in the meantime.
They're going to have to hope that Flash Wolves tries to push up this top lane and some of these wards last long enough to give Impact a chance to get some kind of TP flank off, but it looks like they're getting mostly cleared out by Flash Wolves. It's going to be really, really hard for Cloud9 to fight anything in the next minute and a half.
Yeah, and also remember, the bot lane inhibitor turret is already down, right? They could go down there if they want to look for a fight. They also can just continue to siege and run them around because Cloud9 is going to really struggle to clear waves on all sides, and Impact is still sitting over in that bot lane. Steaky is back up, but look at the damage on the turret already. It's going to be gone.
Oh, it's getting
Jensen's
cracked down. Maple on the front side. Jensen does manage to make it out. Viktor ult still up and available if they want to try to take a fight, but finally Impact looking for the flank TV. Gnar not prepared whatsoever. This is just the mini Gnar flank. Ryze going to ult out of the fight.
That's the flank I was hoping for, but not quite done right. You have to kind of have your CC available in Gnar form, and he had literally just exhausted it in the bot side of the map, split pushing the Poppy in. And with that TP being down, they lost pretty much all their playmaking potential. He was the only one who could really get something started in an advantageous way. Like Braum, flash ult really isn't anything. Viktor punishes people's mispositionings, but he doesn't really go in there and force anything. And so Flash Wolves, if they play this really slow, which they've shown some restraint so far, then I think that they pretty much have this one in the bag.
Yeah. I also think that, like, look at Ryze right now. He has his death cap completed. 1 Q hit Jensen for 1,000. So, I mean, if he gets onto these carries at all, they're just dead. And Jensen, ooh, does kind of chunk out NL, gets his flash, which is nice, but they can look for a fight now.
Karsa kicking Jensen back, does have flash to make to safety. Smoothie doing his best to disengage. Movement going in. Impact trying to make it out, but MMD is on the side, dishing out some damage. Meteos now running in, but just tickling the Poppy there, not getting much of anything. That's pretty good for Cloud9, though. The fact that no one dies, you don't really lose a ton of summoners. I mean, sure, Jensen lost his, but Flash Wolves is going to have to reset here, and the turret was already down, so they really didn't lose anything but 2 summoners. And
NL used his flash, SwordArt used his flash, so I think that's a pretty fair trade. Had Jensen gone down there, it could have been disaster, but he barely lives. Impact doesn't even have to give up the GA, and it starts off well for Jensen, but then, look at this. He walks in front of Smoothie, who has the Q on him. He's not thinking, and doing that gives Lee Sin the free kick in, which costs a summoner, so it could have been, you know, a free set of summoners that they got from Flash Wolves. Instead, Jensen doesn't pay attention to that Lee Sin Q, or Smoothie wasn't calling it, or whatever. There's a breakdown in communication, right? And they're not able to respect that. So
the one lucky thing they had was that Maple was busy dealing with Impact on the side, and if Ryze was ready to follow up on that Lee Sin ult, he would have been dead.
Now I'm curious, Mark, if this was your team, if you were the coach of Cloud9, what do you say to the guys after a game like this? What do you say? Like, how do you improve this? What steps do you need to take in situations like that?
I think the big thing is you just need to identify, because I don't know what the communication was.
He ulted the wave over to mid lane.
Ported the creep wave. That is some sweet Ryze tech.
That is a very cool play.
That's really smart. Holy. And the inhibitor is looking dunzo.
Slowly burning it down. I'm still in shock that he ulted a creep wave in. That was, I think, the coolest use of Ryze ult we've seen yet. Now sieging down here. Impact does have the Gnar. The potential to go in is there. This could be the final fight for Cloud9 if they want to look for it. A lot of open inhibitors. Poppy W down.
It's honestly so reminiscent of the last game that these guys played, where Cloud9 is pushed into the base. They're, you know, sieged up. They're losing inhibitors. They're losing all their turrets and stuff, and then they were able to hold on for so long. But it's harder to see them doing it this time because I don't think that they have this like scaling advantage where it's like, oh, just wait for your sneaky Caitlyn to get 6 items, right? Feels very tough for Cloud9 to find a way in.
Yeah, and having all their inhib turrets down, even before they lost, the inhib itself is a struggle because you don't have that extra man essentially fighting for you around these objectives. Now, Flash Wolves can play this really slow. They don't even need to go for the Elder. I think it can be difficult to finish an Elder off when you have Triple Drake because of the damage reduction that you do to it. They can play even slower if they want to and just keep waves pushed in and just make sure that Cloud9 can't do anything.
Oh, no. They will back off, it looks like.
Cloud9 have to be careful here. Scuttle Crab in flavor of Flash Wolves and not nearly enough vision, although they're using every ability they have to check, and good that they did because Maple is waiting to kill people. And it's terrifying, too, because Impact, the only tank on the team, very limited magic resistance here against the Ryze, who's already got the Abyssal, already got the potential to 1v1 him out. Yes, Impact may be able to fight NL, but NL, you know, 4 items up on this Caitlyn, truly terrifying.
Yeah, he's huge, and I think that Maple has played around the fact that Impact doesn't have a lot of MR very well. He's actually like chunking him out consistently before these fights start, making it so that Impact can't really go in. He can't actually look for the engages. Anytime Impact tries to step forward to threaten that, Maple is very quick to kind of put that damage in on him and really completely stop that. So once again, it's back to C9, just kind of trying to delay. You know, Sneaky is level 15. People are hitting 18 and stuff on flash rolls. So they have hit that kind of experience cap where now you're just making up ground. But as far as items go, it's a long way to go. And this Caitlyn is just so much stronger than Ezreal right now. Like, it's not even remotely close.
I mean, you look at it already, Lord Dominix has to come out so early just to deal with the Poppy, to deal with the Lee Sin and all these threats. Caitlyn has the luxury of just being able to sit on top of the carries and kill just about everyone. Luden's Echo coming in for Ryze as well. I think sort of the poor man's death cap in this scenario.
Yeah, we see Flash Wolves teleporting in to try and get this dragon burned down because Sneaky showed topside. And there's really not much they can do but go for a steal here.
Oh, Poppy Hammer coming out, holding onto it, trying to disengage. Doesn't hit Meteos. Meteos goes over the wall. Is he going to be able to get it? Not the hero play from North America. Maple does go in, though, and he's just going to rip through Jensen. Will he be able to get it? Ryze goes in. He's going to pour back into the team. Smoothie now set to fall. Cloud9 are getting cut down. Sneaky finally makes it to the fight, but it's just to die in the end. Double kill for Maple, and as you said, Azael, that's going to be the game. And absolutely, I mean, disheartening victory or lost defeat coming in there from Cloud9.
I have to really wonder about the Nidalee pick. What might have happened was that C9 was banking on Flash Wolves, banning it on the red side, and Flash Wolves basically saying, no, we don't care if Meteos plays it. It's not really his style of champion. He had been playing these low damage, tanky initiators for his team for the majority of the season, playoffs, and Worlds so far. And the fact that he was taken off that and forced onto this really aggressive champion, I think that might have been the decision that Flash Wolves was going for in this draft, and C9 was too scared to give it away for free with nothing else of really high value to pick early.
So is the difference there that they should have left the Aurelion solo open, should have banned the Nidalee or the Alistar or changed something up there? Because I agree, it seems like Nidalee was not the champion for Meteos. Are you willing to give that up to Karsa?
I'm not willing to give it up to Karsa, and I think the Aurelion Soul, I don't know if Jensen really plays it. We haven't seen it out of him ever in competitive play, I'm pretty sure. So with the Syndra ban, that was probably their highest priority champion prior to this. I think they just assumed Flash Wolves was going to ban the Nidalee, and without it, you're suddenly put in this position where we have to first pick it or we give it away for an Alistar or something, you know, like nothing of high value. I'm not even sure what they would want to first pick that you see. Maybe the Ryze was something they could have prioritized instead, but guess not.
Yeah, I really think that Flash Wolves just closed out that game so well. They had a very good comp to do it, but also the fact that they controlled vision so well. They went to the Elder. They had gotten all the dragons throughout the game, so they had this big dragon advantage, and it means it's kind of like for C9, this no-win situation where are you going to give these guys this Elder Dragon? And honestly, even if Meteos stole the dragon there, I think they still lose the fight. So it's one of those situations where it felt like Flash Wolves probably had them painted into a corner, and maybe C9 shouldn't have even tried to go for it, but I feel like if they don't, they're doomed either way.
Yeah, I don't mind them going for it. At some point, you do have to go for one of those kind of, oh god, we have to make something happen plays, and it worked out in their previous match where Meteos was able to make a number of them happen, but here they don't have nearly as many tools, and so they just go for the steal and hope that with the poke that they have on a number of their champions, the burn is maybe enough to hold off for a little bit longer, but that's not what happened.
And interestingly enough, it does feel like Flash Wolves were so much more diligent in placing vision than they were in that first game. There was no opportunity for Meteos to find that crazy flank. Of course, Nidalee, not really the crazy flanking champion that Lee Sin can be, but Impact similarly didn't have the opportunity to get those flanks out. And Flash Wolves played a very clean, a very controlled game of League of Legends. It won them the day, and I think the most brutal part about watching that from the Cloud9 Fog of War was examining their decision-making, moving into those kind of contested areas of the map.
Yeah, they made so many mistakes, I think, around vision, around not respecting their opponents, and I don't know if that's just kind of like a lack of focus or if it's a lack of respect for Flash Wolves because of the last game or what it is. But either way, they definitely made a ton of mistakes around that. You know, everything from the first death that Meteos gave up to Impact dying to Sneaky dying inside lanes and stuff. They just weren't respecting the fact that their opponents could be there when they didn't have vision, especially not respecting the semi-global ultimates from Ryze and Tahm Kench.
Yeah, interesting to see. We'll have to see how Cloud9 is able to perform later today in their final game of the day. But when we come back, Frostgurn and Papa Smoothie are here to help us with another single team focus. This time we'll see things from IMA's perspective. For now, though, we'll send you back to the mainstream where Dash and the rest of the analyst desks are breaking down this big Flash Wolves win.
And the person on the split push, 1-3-1 was the way to go.
I honestly have no idea how that game even got to that stage. Nidalee out-tempoed the heck out of Lee Sin. Was able to go top, get first blood, was 2 camps up at one point, first blood, and there should have been no way back into this game. When you have a Gnar that ahead of a Poppy, that should like literally be lights out. But all of a sudden, Karsa just makes play after play after play, and then Maple 1v3s under a turret. I mean, this was a perfect nightmare for Cloud9.
Yeah, the second that Flash Wolves got a grip in that by that pick onto Nidalee, it was just game over. Cloud9 seemed unable to look for any opportunities, and Flash Wolves just took all the ones that Cloud9 could have been able to come up themselves and just use that against themselves and got so far ahead. It was really great game by them.
And not to take anything away from the Flash Wolves, but I think that play that you just highlighted there, the pick off on Nidalee, which was an aggressive move by Meteos in the first place, to me is the story of Cloud9 so far today. They look like a solo queue team. They don't look together, right? Well, I mean, they're giving up objectives left and right around Dragons when they have compositions that could probably stand and fight.
I think their control is like what I would really highlight. They don't know when they should be aggressive, and then they don't know when they shouldn't be aggressive. We saw in the game against SKT, where like time and time again, just flash on the Zyra. She's already used double summoner spells, blow her up. They don't do it often enough with the Alistar. Then this game, when you should play passive, because all of a sudden your Gnar is massive and you stall out the other 2 lanes and let Impact go to work one more time, they're just incapable of doing that as well, and it all falls apart at the seams.
Yeah, and then there I want to return to the good for Flash Wolves, which is that we had questions around, hey, their late game decision making. And here, once they had control of this game, they did not let it go. It was pretty smooth and steady, although it took some time, but they pretty cleanly won the game once they established a lead.
Their answer was pretty much just to group together, and because they were so far ahead just from the regular laning phase and so strong in Maple particularly, they could just bulldoze anything. And I mean, they group 5 middle, were able to take that group 5 bottom, just straight out took that turret and took the objective. And once you're actually that strong enough to do that, then closing out the game is relatively simple.
Yeah, and I just wish that Flash Wolves would pick for these later compositions. You know, NL has actually been good in this tournament. His Caitlyn has looked fine. Stop going for the Jhin and the Lucia and just pick this late game composition where you can out-team fight and out-rotate other people.
And I think that's fine as well, because, I mean, Karsa and Maple are good enough to get you through the majority of the early games at this stage. And, you know, MMD picking more for the composition, NL picking for the sieges, which is where they really have struggled, is that setup stage. Just makes a heck of a lot more sense. And, you know, if I had have known that they would have gone back away from the Jhin to the Caitlyn, like, this is a completely different game now.
Yeah, very much so. And Clement, you mentioned Maple being a split-pushing threat, but the team fight that I want to take a look at is where he's a 1v3 team fight monster. 25 minutes into the game, about C9 aced in the mid lane, a turret plus a Baron for Flash Wolf.
This is really the point where you remember that Ryze wasn't really actually nerfed. He just got a new shiny ultimate. And you see right here, the damage is just 2 items on Ryze is like unbearable, even for the tankiest members of C9. We see the push coming in here, and then Ryze is going to sneak up to the side. Meteos is looking for some opportunities here, but he doesn't expect who he runs into. Gets 2 shots to the face, and then another Q kills him right there. Now it's a 1v2 scenario. The exhaust is on Ryze, but the damage is still going in. The last shield prevents him from dying, and he cleans up the 1v3.
And that's the biggest thing to me. I mean, knowing when you need to go for extra damage, knowing when you need to go to pop that shield, that just shows that Maple really has mastered this champion, has all the combos down pat. And honestly, that looked like a weird flank one more time to go for. It looked like the turret was actually defended this time around. Still, Impact wants to go for it, and they get caught out.
And Crumbs, you talked about at the very beginning of the day, C9 lives and dies by Jensen. And that gold graph there, or not gold graph, that damage graph there does not speak well when a player is on Viktor, one of the highest output AoE damage team fighters, and he's only matching his jungler and his top laner.
Well, we actually did see him get bullied in the mid lane by the likes of Maple, and when you don't have a very good synergy with the jungle, mid, and support, it's very hard to maintain a control on that area and have a mid laner that can push in and move around the map. With the likes of Braum and Nidalee, you have to be able to go in, secure the vision, and Cloud9's vision has, again, been suspect this game, and it just becomes so much more difficult for a mid laner to try to play their own game if they don't feel comfortable pushing past River.
And that's a big reason why Maple's going to take player of the game here for the control of the mid lane. We've now seen Jensen play both sides of this matchup. The casters talked about it in game, and both times he's come out on the worst end of it.
45% of damage. That's absolutely gross. I mean, I'm just looking at this and replaying it in my head, and so many of these game-winning plays for the Flash Wolves now come down to 2 people. I think like SwordArt's having a solid tournament, but really when they win, it's Karsa, Maple going absolutely bonkers at the moment.
The key here is that Flash Wolves needed that win in order to keep their quarterfinals hopes alive. For those C9 fans out there, have no fear. There are still a couple different opportunities that they have to make it to the quarterfinals. SKT and IMA are up on deck next. Stay with us.
TSM goes Sky is bad, man.
TSM goes Sky.
Let's not join them in the Sky.
Let's do it for TSM.
Oh, he juked back into it, and the flash to save! Mechanically perfect from Meteos!
Meteos, he's gonna contest SwordArt on
the flash to chop him down. Here's 2 teammates, Meteos. Oh, man, assassinated. 3 versus 5. What are they going to get? It's gonna be Maple getting the first kill. Now Sneaky trying to get the trade, but look at the damage. Maple with the triple kill. Jensen caught out by the stuns, knocked into the air, not dead just yet, trying to stay alive. The tackle, gonna finally take him out. MMD gets one. Smoothie's next up, 2 for 0 to Flash Wolves. Flash Wolves stays alive at the World Championship.